right, good afternoon, everybody. Colleagues, visitors, judges, students, staff members, alumni, friends, welcome. This is one of the most exciting days during our academic year and truly a highlight of the academic year. The Innovation Expo today started with the Thomas H. Scholl lecture for visiting entrepreneur. As I am sure you have had the opportunity during the day, we've had a whole host of displays of student projects. And this is the culminating event, the Ansary Entrepreneurship competition. I am immensely proud of the creative thinkers, leaders, and problem solvers that Stevens produces, I mean our students. The kind of innovative thinking that we see in the student projects today will obviously ultimately drive solutions to the world's most vexing problems. It is through the generosity of the Ansary family that Stevens is able to nurture, support, and provide recognition and rewards for the talented entrepreneurs in our student body. Each year, 3 cash prizes are awarded for the top 3 student teams who convince our panel of judges, the distinguished panel of judges who are sitting up front and they will be coming on stage soon, that their senior design project will be the basis of a successful new business. The first prize is $10,000, second prize $5,000, and the third prize is $3,500. I am profoundly and immensely grateful to the Ansary family for their support of this competition, which is the capstone event of our Innovation Expo. Before we get to the competition, though, I want to share a very brief video that our colleagues have put together that captures some of the tremendous and exciting advances that Stevens has made in the last decade. I am bursting with pride in all that we have accomplished, thanks to the hard work and dedication of our faculty, staff, students, alumni, supporters, and friends of this institution. I am more certain than ever that great things are in store for Stevens in the years ahead. Let's watch this 2-minute video.
Stevens is truly a university on the rise. This has been a decade of transformational change and remarkable progress. A 214% increase in applications, a 67% increase in undergraduate enrollment, a dramatic increase in the academic profile and diversity of our students, including a 145-point increase in the average SAT score of incoming students, a 98% increase in the number of women undergraduates, and a 149% increase in the number of underrepresented minority students. The distinctive and technology-infused Stevens education emphasizes hands-on experiential learning, industry-sponsored internships, cooperative education, capstone projects, hackathons, study abroad, and many opportunities for civic engagement. Many students go on to file patents, secure venture funding, and launch their own startup companies. And Stevens education leads to powerful outcomes. More than 97% of the Stevens class of 2021 achieved their employment or graduate school outcomes within 6 months of graduation, joining companies like Google, Goldman Sachs, Amazon, and many more, while others joined prestigious graduate programs at universities like Princeton, Columbia, and MIT. We are incredibly proud of our students, the success they achieve, and the mark they make around the globe and right here in New Jersey. About 50% of our 50,000 alumni live or work in New Jersey, providing the technology talent that fuels our innovation economy. And we're proud of our growing research enterprise, which has doubled in size over the past decade in fields like fintech, quantum technologies, artificial intelligence and machine learning, robotics, energy, sustainability, biomedical engineering, brain research, and more. And In a few weeks, we will open our magnificent new University Center complex, providing a state-of-the-art hub for campus life, including dining and conference venues, fitness spaces, student club and lounge spaces, and housing nearly 1,000 students who will have one of the best views of any students in the world. Thank you for joining Stevens Institute of Technology on one of our most favorite days of the academic year, the Innovation Expo. And now, please join us in welcoming our MC and participants in the Ansary Entrepreneurship Competition. Good luck to all.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that video as much as I did. At this point, I'm delighted to introduce our MC, our wonderful MC, Mr. Aaron Price, who is a wonderful partner to Stevens as well as a champion and driving force for technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship in Hoboken and in New Jersey. Aaron is the CEO of Tech United NJ, which represents more than 500,000 innovators and some of the largest tech companies in the country. Previously, Aaron was the CEO of Propelify, one of the largest entrepreneurial communities in the country. Together, Tech United NJ and Propelify provide the tools, resources, and community to propel ideas into action and to strengthen our collective technology ecosystem at all stages of growth. The annual Propelify Innovation Festival welcomes more than 10,000 innovators to Hoboken for talks, technology, exhibitors, drones, VCs, VR, music, food, drinks, and lots of other exciting things, the way Aaron does them. Propelify was inspired by Aaron's award-winning NJ Tech Meetup, a technology and entrepreneurial community with more than 7,000 members. Mr. Price has served as the tech community expert for the White House under the Obama administration, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, Fast Company Entrepreneur Magazine, and the Wall Street Journal, to name only a few. A serial entrepreneur, Aaron Price has founded several technology startups, and he served as the entrepreneur in residence at the New York venture capital firm DFJ Gotham. A born entrepreneur, Aaron started his first commercial venture in high school after he was awarded a patent for a weightlifting device. We are very grateful to Aaron Price for all he does for the tech innovation community, and especially for serving as MC again for today's Ansary Entrepreneurship Competition. And thank you especially to our esteemed judges for today's competition, who will be introduced shortly by Aaron. May I ask Aaron Price to please come to stage.
I think this is maybe the fifth one of these that I've emceed, and the bio's gotten significantly longer, so thank you for your patience in that. But what's been really incredible in this community is how much Stevens has grown in the more than a decade I've been in this community, and in their partnership with launching the New Jersey Tech Meetup to several of those other things that Stevens has been an integral partner in helping to achieve. You mentioned in the video 50% of the students and alumni end up staying in New Jersey. And we talk at Tech United in New Jersey quite a bit about the strengths of this region and about the talent that we sometimes do lose across the river and really across the world. But it's so encouraging and inspiring to see the projects that happen here year after year, to think back on my own entrepreneurial endeavors not having this kind of support, and how incredible it is that we are educating and building these kinds of projects right here in our backyard. So I want to extend a big round of applause to Dr. Narman personally, as well as to Stevens on putting on this incredible event each year. Thank you very much. So, it's great to have you all here. Hopefully you are rooting for a team. It should be a somewhat fun and hopefully dramatic hour. I want to thank our judges for joining us, and so if you could please help me welcome them up on stage while we get into our ceremony. It's kind of an awkward walk, so give them like a long clap while they make their way up here. Come on up here, judges. There we go. Yeah, you sit over here, right there. And I also want you, I believe the webcam is streaming from up there that light is. We're going to pretend that's the places, but turn around and wave to those who are watching remotely, especially the Ansary family who's been generously supporting this for several years, giving away these cash prizes, but more so inspiring the next generation of innovation. Look up there and give them a wave. You could do it, right there. Come on, friendly wave. Hello. Hi, Mom. She tends to watch me doing these things. She could be there. Are those the right seats? Matt, yes? Okay, good. So for the last month, there were 150 projects. That group got culled down to about 45, and today we have our top 10 finalists. Over the next, I'm not sure quite how long, 45 minutes or so, we're going to hear from each of these projects what it was about, get some feedback from these judges. Thank you all for being here. So first up, we're going to have the first groupings of companies or projects. Ginny, real-time ASL transcription, and IntelliVeggie, come on out. Or come on up. I was kind of looking for that with the judges. I'm not sure where the energy was, but thank you for being so supportive. So we're going to have each company first start with a short description, 30, 45 seconds, of what your project was about. I'm not sure who's with which company, I can't see it. So if the representative from Ginny could share your 30 to 45 second review. Jeannie, I'm sorry. Thank you. This is interactive. If I'm making mistakes, just let me know. Jeannie, could you grab that mic? It'll pull off. You can pull it off.
Okay, so we're Team Genie, and our project is a gradual insertion for non-impacting implantation, and we're a spinal surgery device which takes out the need for traditional impaction methods, which is when a surgeon takes a surgical mallet to hammer in an implant into a patient's body.
So our device replaces the mallet device with a combination of a spinal distractor and a spring-powered hand clamp, which is used to lower the implant into place gradually gradually with a measured amount of force. That way we are eliminating the chances of internal matrix fractures and debris production, and also the damage to the surrounding tissue. As you can imagine, using a mallet produces a lot of damage to the tissue surrounding, especially in such a sensitive area of the spine.
Judges, any feedback on how you've seen this project evolve? I know, for those who are unaware, there's been a very robust chatter through Slack in really grilling each of these projects on their viability. Any judges have any feedback? Garrett, you look interested. I'm going to call on you. Yeah. That's what you get for looking right at me.
Yeah, so actually I had a follow-up question. I'm more curious, like, what is your exact next step? So you guys have your first kind of designs, prototypes, like, what do you guys want to do next with this?
Yeah, so throughout the class, we were able to first develop our prototype, which was basically finished manufacturing it about a month ago. So we started with very initial testing. We're looking into the patent process right now with our professor and kind of looking at the things that worked really well with our designer already, and then thinking of next steps in terms of what improvements we can make as a device, just kind of keeping on developing with R&D and further testing.
And I'm sorry, I meant to do this, Garrett. Could you just very briefly introduce who you are and who you're with?
Oh, yeah. Hello, my name is Garrett Winther. I am a partner with Hacks and SOSV. We're early stage venture capitalists that aim at startups that typical investors don't invest in, so hardware, industrials, energy, climate, biotech, and like to write very first checks into companies that are just stepping out of universities or PhDs and giving it a shot.
Excellent. Judith, looks like you had a question.
Yes.
And also, let's start with this. Introduce yourself, please.
Sure. I'm Judith Sheft. I'm the Executive Director of the New Jersey Commission on Science, Innovation, and Technology. We provide grants to early stage companies, so that's non-dilutive funding to them, and we're also looking to enhance the ability for companies and universities to work together to be able to take advantage of all the great resources at our New Jersey universities. I wanted to mention to this team that one of the things that they should consider as a next step is the federal SBIR STTR program. You can go onto the federal websites and take a look at funding opportunities, because I think this would be the kind of thing that the National Institutes of Health, which is the second largest funding group out of the federal government behind the Department of Defense, could be interested in funding. You could get up to several $100,000 of non-dilutive funding for a phase 1 project, and I'm happy to give you some additional insight into that afterwards.
Awesome, thank you. We'll definitely look into that.
Hey, Brian Donahue. I'm computer science class 2011, Stevens, go Ducks.
And what
right
do you do now?
What's that?
What do you do now?
I'm a director of engineering at DoorDash, recovering entrepreneur. I sold the last company I was running to Pinterest in 2016, and recently took a job at DoorDash. So, Jeannie, I really liked the product and the presentation, the pitch. I'm just curious how you kind of came across the user problem. I think a lot of entrepreneurs wind up uncovering their own problems and then fixing them. Both of you look like you have good spines, as far as I could tell. So I'm just curious kind of how you came about this area. It's interesting.
Yeah, so in discussion with our senior design professor at the start of the year, he kind of addressed this issue. He didn't hone in on the spine yet, but just kind of the issue with impaction in general, because a lot of orthopedic surgery is, a lot of people say it's like hardcore. You feel like you're in a machine shop. So that's kind of like was the thought behind it, and then spine is like a very delicate area, so that kind of got us interested in our scope onto that area. And then he has some experience, he's in industry, so he kind of targeted us towards the A-lift procedure, which is the anterior approach, and just more and more research into industry. We had a few conversations with some people who work for Medtronic and other companies, so that really helped us like hone in what we wanted to focus on.
If I could ask Real-Time ASL also to share your project description, please.
Yeah, of course. I can talk a little bit about what we have produced through our senior design project. So we're Team Real-Time ASL Transcription, and we created a software that is able to take someone who's signing ASL and translate it into written or spoken English. And it is for the people who rely on ASL to communicate and have to go about their everyday lives without having a direct way to communicate with someone without a translator or an expensive translation service. So our product is able to do that for free for end users and translates from what they're signing and uses over 1,200 data points to be able to translate that into spoken or written English, like what I was saying before. And we set out to do this because current translation services cost users tens of thousands of dollars each year, and this isn't a feasible lifestyle to keep up for people like this, and they have never had, there's nothing out there like this that is free and doesn't require any extra software or hardware and perfect conditions and perfect lighting like we have now. But that's really like the idea behind our project. We just want to make a way for them to be immersed within society for the first time independently and have them be able to get their own voice heard and their thoughts out where they haven't been able to before.
Yes, feedback, Rita?
Hi, my name is Rita Soni. I don't want to say what class I am, but I am a Stevens alum and very happy to be here, happy to be back. I work at Everest Group. We're a market research firm focused on the global services industry, and I'm trying to bring in the environmental, social governance aspects, ESG, into that industry, and this project really inspired me. I've worked quite a bit in the area of inclusion of persons with disabilities. So I just wondered if you could comment a little bit more on the AI behind what it is that you've put together, because that's exciting in terms of inclusion.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I've done all the machine learning behind it, behind the scenes. Pretty much, we have two models that go about doing it. Basically, we track, like Bree said, we have over 1,600 data points every single frame that we take in and actually predict what signs a person is actually saying. And there's different inflections. You know, you always use your face, you use the way your body goes about. So we have to take in a lot of data to make sure that we're accurately assessing those signs. And once we take it in, ASL is its own language. So the grammar is different. The way that people set up words are different and phrases. So we have another machine learning kind of model that actually does machine translation. So taking that literal ASL and then converting it into English. And you know, this entire process can be used for different dialects, different slang, and also can be used pretty easily, transformed into not just English, but German, Spanish, French, the whole gamut.
Other feedback?
Yeah, hi,
Second.
I'm Laura Paglione. I'm also an alum. I also won't say what year. I love the term recovering entrepreneur. I am also a recovering entrepreneur, but in the social sector, doing nonprofit work, and most of the work that I'm doing now, I'm doing consulting now, and that is in higher ed, in research and innovation. So I loved your pitch, mainly because I found it to be extremely compelling. I liked your use of sign language within the pitch. It was, I think it really helped to illustrate the problem. And I'm curious about the reason you chose that. Clearly, there are signers in your group. Maybe everybody was able to sign beforehand. So what was your inspiration?
So actually, we don't know sign language. So we've been actually trying to learn it. We have a great director of disability services here, Phil Gaiman. We've been just loving to always go into his office and just try to figure out. I remember the first couple weeks going in just saying, we don't know anything about sign language. How do we learn this stuff? And it's been an adventure. And if you want to talk more about why.
And I also think, like, within our pitch, we chose to illustrate with the different signs within, just to show the dilemma that people in this community go through every day, because like, especially in the beginning, the opening part of our pitch, like, when someone's signing to you and you don't understand it, it's the same as, like, if someone's talking in Spanish to you and you don't understand Spanish. It's just a complete communication barrier, and right now there's nothing out there that alleviates that, which is kind of why we chose to show that dilemma and really have people step into the shoes of people in that community. And like Jaden said, like, none of us know sign language and none of us have been affected by this, but Jaden and I are both peer leaders on campus, and we've been exposed to, like, things that people who have disabilities go through, and, like, what kind of environment and, like, mindset that they have. And I think it really shined a light on this idea, because I had this idea back in junior year of high school, but I didn't know how to do anything junior year of high school. So I kind of brought it to now, and especially, like I said, being a peer leader has really shone a light on what people in this community have to go through every day of their lives, and we really wanted to find a way to get this into their hands in an affordable way.
And yeah.
So I have, like, some experience building accessibility software, mostly for visually impaired people, like voiceover, text-to-speech. In my experience, I found it really valuable to work directly with people who, can't see or are blind in order to get user feedback. So I'm just curious, like, have you done any user research? Have you worked with any people who communicate primarily with ASL, and how's that gone?
Yeah, so biggest contact has been Phil Gaiman. He signs ASL because his parents are, he's a CODA, a child of a deaf adult. So it's been a great research through that. I also have a lot of friends that they have friends that are signed interpreters. So it's been really cool to just show kind of that throughout this 9-month process. Hey, I've been working on this. Does this look kind of good? And getting those feedback, because it's really, really important that we are targeting those end users, and we're trying to make sure that their lives are better off, and we don't want to give them a product that they don't want to use.
If we could move on to IntelliVeggie. Thank you.
Hi, so we are IntelliVeggie. We are a fully automated modular greenhouse using embedded systems and machine learning technology to track optimal growth and harvestability. So we're tracking things like light, humidity, soil moisture, soil temperature, and we're using that to trigger actuators like fans, lights, and water pumps. So if your plant is too hot, we can turn on the fan. And if it's too cool, we can turn on the lights. That data is also getting sent to our machine learning algorithm, which is for harvestability and plant and disease detection. So 35% of crops that plants are growing are lost due to rot or infection. So with our process, we are eliminating that and minimizing it to zero. So not only are small farmers profiting more, but we're also bringing more delicious and nutritious vegetables to the consumer.
Yeah, and just to build on that, our model is also really scalable. So it's based on the needs and budget of the farmer. And that data that we collect also is stored in another database, and it actually trains another machine learning algorithm that optimizes the conditions and automation of the greenhouse greater than what we see today. So it's going to track all that data that we collected. It's going to see what diseases might have sprung up. It's going to have an idea of what the yield was. So now for all of the plants together in the greenhouse, they can have the optimal conditions collectively.
I was really very impressed with the project, and certainly, as you say, food waste is a problem and climate change, so if you're able to do things to protect the resources is very important. Do you envision having any type of a home style product so that if I'm going to have my own backyard garden, I'll be able to do something as well?
You know, I'm glad you asked. So we actually do have a model that's in the expo that actually is a representation of what could be a home gardener setup. It's very scalable, the whole model that we made, as I mentioned. So, you know, we could have something as big as a commercial greenhouse, 30 by 96 feet, down to something as small as a single pot. So definitely yes.
I'll be looking for that under my holiday tree.
See our website for products.
Assemblyman, you might be the quietest politician we've ever had here before, but I'm curious if you have any feedback.
I'd like to let the actual expert speak. Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Tully with the State Assembly. I'm also the chair of the Science, Technology, and Innovation Committee. And I'm just fascinated with all these projects, so I'm really just listening here. But what were your biggest hurdles, would you say, throughout this project? And I'm really curious because it was quite an interesting pitch, so please.
Sure. So I'm sure both of us can add to this because there's a wide array of hurdles we encountered. First, I want to note that we are an interdisciplinary team of software and computer engineers, but we extensively worked with carpentry. So that was already a learning hurdle. Next was, for our models, it was definitely collecting data. So for our first model for disease detection, we wanted to show you exactly or tell you the exact disease that infected your plant. That way you know how to treat it. So getting data on that took a while, but we were able to get university-grade data from universities that we requested from, and also a community-based data collection service called iNaturalist. That's where people send in photos, and it's verified by researchers on what may be the disease, what may be the plant, and then we can use that data to train our models. Aside from that, I would say another hurdle we experienced was really honing in on our business strategy. So notably, 90% of all farms in the US are small farms, but they walk a very thin line. And 15% have closed in the last decade alone because they face competition, say, from like commercial farms. But these commercial farms are socially exclusive and chemically intensive models that are rapidly degrading our ecosystem. And we had to find, how can we fix this status quo that's unsustainable? And so we needed to make sure that our greenhouse is affordable and scalable. So we found construction methods that were based on Texas A&M research, and there were case studies done in Fiji and Jamaica that show that this construction method is significantly cheaper than the current greenhouse construction method.
Giuseppe, question, feedback?
Hi, everyone. Giuseppe Ansary, CEO, Site Tracker, class of 2004. I love this competition because I've been pitching my company for years, so I love being on the other side of the table. But I really love this idea. I think there's a lot going on. There's a physical component to it and a software component to it and a lot more logistics if it all works out. Curious if you've thought of any key partnerships that could help you, with this big project.
Yeah, definitely. We would love to partner with the USDA or California Farm Unions just because they have the knowledge on farming. Obviously, we are software and computer engineers, so we are lacking in that area. We need connections to those farms to know exactly what their need base is. So partnering with them would give us information, and it would be a give and take relationship.
So can I make a suggestion? Rutgers has a food innovation center, and I would certainly encourage you to connect with that organization to get some insights. And there's also another organization I would recommend for you, Clean Tech Open Northeast, that you can apply to participate in, and they've got an agricultural track.
Thank you. Yeah, we know universities have these extensions, and we utilize them often. And we actually know of some other initiatives like the Know Your Farmer, Know Your Food initiative, or regional innovation initiatives that are specific for agriculture.
I'm going to cut you off here if I could, because we've got to wrap this group. But Garrett, I'm going to go to you on words of encouragement and advice should they decide to take these forward.
For everybody?
For everybody.
Oh, wow.
Good luck.
Well, I was in a seat like you guys back when I was graduating in mechanical engineering at a different tech school. And it was one of those things where we had a startup, we were scaling up, and all of a sudden I got a job at a consulting job that I really wanted. They handed me some papers, I signed them, and I went and did consulting. I shut down my startup, and we had revenue, we had a team, it was all going well. I look back, that's my biggest regret. Like, I should have just kept going with that startup, give it a shot. If you spend a year doing a startup, you're actually more valuable to employers because you're learning about what does it mean to run a business, run a team, get down in the dumps and kind of figure out how to use resources. So I would encourage you guys, as you're working through this, if you have in the position, which not many people are lucky enough to be in, to take that moment to try a startup, it's worth giving it a shot. So.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Now, before you leave, can I ask each team to stand in groups on stage here? Can you give them each a round of applause? These are very, very impressive. So,
thank you.
What you don't know is that we know one of you is advancing, and unfortunately two groups are not. So, I wish we had like flames around the edge of the stage, maybe a tiger, but in lieu of flames and a tiger, I'll just tell you. Unfortunately, Jeannie will not be advancing. Big round of applause for Jeannie. Can we get like a leg drum roll situation happening here? Advancing from this first group, real-time ASL. Congratulations. If you guys can all go backstage, excellent job, and we're going to bring out the next group of projects. Thank you very much. Don't take the mic. There we go. I love the bow tie. All right, next group is somewhere, VR Scholar. I don't know if you're backstage. You'll do what part? Where are they? The next group of teams is coming, but while we wait. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
yes, we're going to show the pitch of the winner.
Feel excluded? Welcome to the life of the hearing and vocally impaired. This is the reality every day. I'm Brianna Garland.
I'm Chloe Sharp.
And I'm Jane Pruner. We're the creators of Sign. There are over 35 million hearing or vocally impaired people that must rely on others to communicate, cost them tens of thousands of dollars each year. And this is just to talk to someone else. The odds are stacked against this community for their entire lives. Of all the people who didn't graduate high school in the US, 44% are deaf or vocally impaired. And it doesn't just stop there. A quarter of this community have left jobs due to inadequate accommodations and discrimination, making 26% have to survive underneath the poverty line. This community not only needs better, this community deserves better.
We have developed software that uses computer vision and machine learning to capture over 1,200 data points every second, from hand and body positions using just a standard webcam, creating real-time translation from ASL to English with a 98% accuracy. This means no more personal interpreters, no more expensive hand tracking gloves, and no more proprietary equipment. And for the first time, we integrate within a person's life to enable them to have their voice heard. Think of it as Google Translate for ASL. Now, I'm sure you've seen many amazing pitches this week, but just think of the additional market reach, inclusion, and accessibility these projects would have if we incorporated our software into theirs.
We are targeting 3 key market segments: individuals, developers, and enterprises. While we made the conscious decision to make Sign free for deaf individuals using first-party apps, we are confident that we will generate enough revenue through developer and enterprise licenses to maintain a lasting company. Developers and enterprises will be able to integrate our APIs into their own products and services with pricing options that make our technology as accessible as possible while scaling to customer needs. Once Sign has been released commercially, we've estimated that we will generate over $750,000 in revenue and capture 0.1% of the $1.2 billion TAM, with the market estimated to reach $12.5 billion by the year 2025.
We're asking for an investment of $500,000 for 10% of our company so that we can utilize the next 6 months to build out our platform, protect our intellectual property, and begin executing our business development strategy for commercialization.
The endless applications for Sign will affect society at large as we are providing a layer of inclusivity that has never existed before, applicable to any scenario where communication is required, whether it's in the medical field, in government services, or simply at a drive-through.
Our mission is to provide accessibility for the tens of millions of people that are burdened by the current ecosystem of sign language interpretation, allowing others to not just see this, but to understand and communicate like this.
I sign ASL, I can communicate, and I am independent.
Congratulations again to that team. I want to point out a couple things. One, in case those who didn't win that previous round are disappointed, I hope you hold your heads high. This is a fierce competition. You made it to the top 10. And I also want to point out, I am just randomly choosing the second and third in each of these groups. So you didn't actually come in last. All I know is the winner from each group, so I just don't want you to understand that practical point. So, starting with Watermate on the next group. Can you share with us your project? I have a mic here.
Yeah, so we are Watermate, obviously. We are a hydration tracker, right? So we have a flow rate sensor in our bottle. We track ounces that go out of the bottle into the user. Generally, that is communicated over Bluetooth to the user's phone. And then that automatically goes to their doctor or their coach who prescribes them a hydration plan. Because the main thing that we're going after is a service between a user and then the actual coach. Because me, Vincent, and PJ, our other group mate, we're all ex-track athletes here from Stevens, so we know the importance of hydration. We know how important it is to show up to practice, show up to competition, and be ready to go. Another huge thing is that we can't have practices where we can't compete and things like that. So yeah, that's our project.
Judges, feedback, observations in the last month? Yes.
Happy to go first here. Curious the feedback you got from coaches. You know, I'm an ex-college athlete, and I'm sure my coach would love to have tracked what we were eating and drinking and what time we were going to bed and a bunch of other stuff. So just curious.
Yeah, obviously it's huge. I mean, our track coach loved it. A big thing he mentioned was obviously we all use Garmin watches. So another big thing we're trying to go for in the future is to incorporate our hydration data with other apps. So Garmin, when you finish a run, they can tell your recovery time, but they don't have any hydration data. So if we give them that data, they would have better recovery time, obviously, too. And coaches want to know, when you show up to competition. Another big thing is, for football teams and stuff, I played football in high school. So, when you show up to practice in preseason, it's 110 degrees. You got to do a double that day. You don't want athletes showing up that can't compete or you're at risk of, falling or passing out or things like that.
Judith?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, in addition to the athletic market, can you talk a little bit about the market for patients who may be given certain medications where they need to take a certain amount of water or other beverages as part of the medication regime that they're taking? So can you talk about that market as well as the athletics market?
Yeah, exactly. So another big thing our IDE professor mentioned was that a lot of patients, like you said, have to take either some sort of liquid medication and has to make sure they actually drink it, the entirety of it. And so doctors can prescribe, say, we're filling this bottle with X amount of ounces of fluid, and by 3 p.m. you need to make sure you reach that goal. And the doctor will be able to see and make sure they've reached that goal. If not, they can ping them through the app and make sure then they drink what they need to drink.
I'll double down on that one too. There's massive opportunity in senior and elderly care or chronically dehydrated.
Yeah, I can speak firsthand on that. My uncle, his father, has diabetes, and he doesn't take a lot of his medications, and he doesn't hydrate properly, and he has a lot of problems. If his nurse or caregiver could actively monitor how much he's drinking throughout the day, it would save a lot of trips to the ER that he frequently goes through.
And you might be able to potentially not only have the physician get the information, but say an adult child or someone else in their family who can get the alert.
I just wanted to comment. I've done some work with older adults, and while we think of them as not necessarily technologically savvy, there's a lot of effort being made into making them technologically savvy. So let's think of them as the recipients and not just recipients of the data as well.
Yeah, of course, and the mobile application, so obviously they'll be drinking the bottle and getting the data, but their doctors or caregivers can send them push notifications to make sure that they're getting the data as well.
If we can hear from Mod Filter.
Hello, everybody. We are the Mod Filter team. So there are 20 million Americans right now who do not have access to clean drinking water. So a very, very large portion of that is due to lead contaminants from our lead plumbing and infrastructure. It's going to take a lot of time and a lot of money to overhaul the entire US plumbing infrastructure. So what our goal is to create a faucet filtration system that will filter the lead out of your water. What a lot of people don't know is that filters like Brita and Pure actually aren't very effective at filtering lead due to the medium they use. So we have an innovative medium that actually filters the lead out of faucet water, so it'll protect families, it'll protect children.
Questions or feedback? Judith for the win from the judges.
Yeah,
You guys got to step up your game.
So again, I would, to the same way I had mentioned to the other team, I think if you look at federal grants from the Small Business SBIR program, particularly from the Department of Environmental Protection as well as National Science Foundation, you may be able to find some additional non-dilutive funding sources to help further the work that you're doing. And talk a little bit about intellectual property. You mentioned the proprietary filter that you're working on.
So what's really actually interesting and unique about our project is the titanium dioxide that we're using to modify the filter is actually, the product was patented at Stevens by our advisor and professor 20 years ago. So we're kind of continuing that project along, and we're really looking towards a patent because people have used titanium dioxide in water filters before, but what they haven't done is use the method that we use to modify the activated carbon, which is way, way, way less expensive than making the entire filter made of titanium dioxide, which makes it more affordable for customers, especially in the areas that are having major lead crises. They're generally not very privileged areas, so we want to keep the cost down as much as possible so that all of the consumers can afford it.
So the product that they patented was a granular form of titanium dioxide, and what we're using is a liquid solution form of the titanium dioxide. So our medium is based out of activated carbon, which is what existing filters use, and then we run a very small amount of the solution over the activated carbon, which makes it effective as the same way as the granular. But this works a lot better for our method just because the granular titanium dioxide is very expensive, so it's not economically feasible to fill the whole filter with that. So the activated carbon is a lot cheaper, and since we only need such a small amount of the solution, our price point can be very similar to filters that are on the market while improving on what they already do.
Quick question on scalability. So right now it's really hard to get, let's say, you guys, or at least from my understanding, you're doing like Brita filter size, and it's hard to get these in every home because that's where they need to be. Do you have anything that can scale up to, let's say, a neighborhood-wise or neighborhood size or industrial filter size?
So a lot of the issue is that each house or place of residence has these filters. So even if the community had the filter, once it enters your house and goes through those pipes, it could still contain the lead. But what we were focusing on developing was the medium. So the medium can be scaled up or down to really any size, since you could create a big batch of the medium or a smaller batch. So ideally, we could do it for bigger areas like hospitals or industrial systems while still being able to provide the same protection for houses and homes.
First of all, it's such an incredible idea, and I also am a director of a municipality in New Jersey as well. So what you're saying as far as like the long-term investment in infrastructure, and we do this in the state assembly, we put a lot more money into lead in our water this year, but I'm actually really curious about the next steps. Like, where can you take this? And you mentioned the scalability, but community partnerships, partnering with your neighborhoods, with communities to make sure that they invest in this for an area that might not be willing to make those $1 million investments now, but this is like a temporary fix until we fix the infrastructure issue.
Right, I love that question so much. And part of the inspiration that we had when we were looking at the lead filter systems was we saw right in our own community, Newark, New Jersey, 15, 20 minutes away from here had a major, major, major lead crisis recently. Well, it was discovered recently. It was ongoing. And they found that 70% of the population tested for at least some level of lead in their blood. And obviously the EPA standard that they would like to have for lead is absolutely zero, no tolerance. So we really want to prevent this as much as possible. We saw that in that specific situation, there were actually 40,000 of those filters that were distributed by the local government in programs such as that, so that the community members who may not be able to afford it, even though we try our best to make it affordable, we understand that that's just not a resource available to everybody. So those community members that aren't able to afford it, they are being able to request one and have help from the local government so that everybody's protected. And we, of course, would love to work with our local governments to kind of distribute. That was kind of one of our two channels. One is customers and consumers who want the best for their water, as everybody does. And the other one was to work with our local governments. We saw even recently with the National Infrastructure Plan, the Build Back Better Act that was passed, New Jersey was allocated money to work on our infrastructure, and a portion of that, which we did some research in, was into investing in our local clean water. So we would really, really be interested. And New Jersey has the strictest, actually the strictest in the country in terms of lead laws. So that's why we really love the fact that we're here and investing in this community, because we can tell that the community also cares.
I know you have a question, but we're going to be tight on time, so we got to move on.
Okay, no
But there is networking later. You can chat. Next up is VR Scholar.
All right, so we're VR Scholar, and what we're looking to do is provide education for skills that can normally not be practiced in a traditional classroom or setting due to either budget constraints or the dangerousness of the situation. So the way we're doing that is by offering simulation-based education using virtual reality to supplement secondary education.
Yeah, so more on what we're actually trying to offer is we're not necessarily looking to replace a traditional math classroom in a high school. What we're looking to do is we're looking for things that the school can't offer. So our main example that we lean on with our game now is that we have a Jumpstart a Car game, because obviously this is not something that you could teach in a school because you're not buying cars and maintaining them and everything. But we feel that these are still skills that a student, especially in high school, like as they're coming of age to drive, you might want this skill. As a parent or as a teacher, you still want your students and kids to have these skills. So that's the space we're looking to fill. Another thing is that we're extremely scalable because, again, it's software. All we need to do is have a school who is willing to get a headset, and we can give you the software, and we can get it to every school in America.
Laura, oh, good. You're going anyway.
Yeah, experiential lesson plans are really a big deal now, and organizations like Meta are betting big on virtual environments. And it strikes me that a huge part of the opportunity is in the ability to make these, like the ability to adapt curriculum and turn it into something that can be delivered as a virtual program. Have you thought, when you were working on your project, I know there's constraints within the senior design project, but I'm curious if when you were working through the project, were you thinking that it's that it's primarily a product that you're building the courses and you're selling courses, or did you consider a service model where you're providing consulting?
Yeah, so we're mainly focusing on the service model because we've seen this basically the same approach that we have to high schools as our target, but we've seen the same approach in many other training situations, such as flight simulators. There are police forces who train using VR technology. So we're not necessarily inventing this new method of teaching people things, but we are in this new space of applying. So we definitely thought about, as a service, we would be willing and would be open to expand to things beyond high schools. Our entire future is not necessarily laid out in that way for us. So based on that, we're not limited only to academic things, but we could ultimately end up training people in anything such as We've thought about CPR. We've thought about driving school applications. We've even thought about just other, I'm sorry, we just thought about another.
Yeah. I think what we're trying to say is that there's so much expandability. We can offer this to so many different markets and customers. Like we said, we could do CPR training, driving schools. There's a lot of different places where we can offer VR Scholar, not just the high school classroom specifically.
So kind of building on that comment, what sort of customer discovery have you done in terms of either talking to young people or talking to school administrators or parents about the kinds of skills that they would like to see their children learn? I can think about my children having taken a babysitting class, and again, I could see that that could be something that you could do so that if a young child is being a babysitter, they can learn the skills to address, particular medical situations that they might be faced with. But have you done some customer discovery that you can share with us that would tell us which other areas you think are most promising?
Yeah, so in terms of parents, just feedback we got from them was that they loved the idea. They thought it was really exciting that their kids can learn something that the schools wouldn't teach. In terms of specific ideas, they like the ones we had currently, which were cooking and jump-starting a car in particular, and job interview, more general skills. In terms of the students, they also liked the idea of using virtual reality. They thought it was like a cool new break from like the traditional laptop or handwritten method. And for the most part, they also agreed. They felt that there was feedback that the jump-starting, the ones we have now, the cooking, those are pretty useful skills. The teachers thought they thought the idea was interesting. They were a little bit more hesitant because they almost saw it as like we're trying to replace teaching, which is not what we're trying to do at all. We're looking to help educators. But they thought, well, once we started to explain the idea to them, the science teachers really loved it in particular. They thought the idea of using this for physics or chemistry labs could be really enticing because right now some students have to do them online, especially with COVID restrictions. And they feel that simulating certain things like gravity or electrons in virtual reality we can make it way more exciting for the students.
Assemblyman, I'm going to put you on the spot for your closing and inspiring remarks.
Inspiring remarks. Well, again, as somebody who is not a retired entrepreneur who I started a business, but it really, to what you had said earlier, and this is where it crosses every industry, is perseverance. If you have an idea, if you truly believe in yourselves, you're going to experience obstacles along the way, as we all have in life. But if you persevere and you really believe in yourself and you keep with it, you will succeed. So that's all I can say.
If the three groups would come up on stage for our moment of truth, that would be great. Give them a big round of applause. All right, so again, imagine the ring of fire. Unfortunately, and again, to reiterate, I only have the winner here, so if you're called out first, it doesn't mean you necessarily were last. Can you not moving on from this round? Better get it right, huh? Watermate, I'm sorry. And yes, let's give him a round of applause. We like the claps. This is a very nerve-wracking experience. And give me some of the leg drums again. Here we go. The winner of this round. Long, dramatic pause. Mod Filter. Let's take a look at their pitch. Congratulations, and thank you very much.
Clean water is a basic right as an American. Yet as of 2018, 20 million Americans don't have access to clean water due to lead. 20 million. Newark, New Jersey.
Sorry, I think I did that by drawing on the paper, which is the keyboard behind it.
Clean water is a basic right as an American. Yet as of 2018, 20 million Americans don't have access to clean water due to lead. 20 million. Newark, New Jersey, right in our backyard, 70% of the population affected by lead. Flint, Michigan, 99,000 residents affected. I could go on. Healthcare costs in the US are upwards of $50 million per year due to lead. One boy was found with lead at 47 times higher than the EPA standard and was hospitalized due to anemia and lead lines. He risked seizures, coma, and even death. And the costs don't stop there. Learning problems, $400 million in special education costs due to lead, translating to $260 billion in lifetime earning losses. Lead is a forever chemical, meaning once it enters your system, it never stops. There is no cure except prevention. And with the most common source of lead being household plumbing, pipes, and faucets, how can we prevent this?
Let's say you go to your local store and buy a Brita or Pure filter. You think you're protected now, but you're not. Here's why. These filters use activated carbon mediums that filter 100 gallons of water and remove chlorine and organics, but do not remove lead. So what are we doing better? Our filter uses, and I'm going to get a little bit technical right here, a novel titanium dioxide modified activated carbon medium. This just means that we start with the same material as all the other filters and alter it so that it removes lead and other contaminants. The mod filter lasts for 250 gallons of water, double the amount of time of existing filters. Wouldn't it be wonderful if families had access to this filter that fixed all of these problems and fit into filtration systems they already own?
Well, it's happening. The mod filter will be available to consumers both online and in retail stores beginning in December 2023. We are also introducing an innovative subscription service in which members will receive a new cartridge automatically. Members can then send back their old cartridge at no extra cost to allow for proper disposal, enabling a more cost-effective method. Each cartridge will cost $8.50 to produce and will sell for $19.99, nearly the same as your conventional Brita filter. And because our filters are designed to last twice as long, customers will, in essence, pay about half as much over the course of the product's life. Now, there is a market of 20 million Americans who are still exposed to poisonous water that need this filter, and another 20 million just everyday Americans who just want the best when it comes to their water. We will acquire 2 million customers, 5% of our target market every year, achieving a revenue of about $80 million per year.
The product is patent worthy and we need legal guidance and funding to protect our intellectual property. $100,000 in contribution can help us secure the rights, manufacturing, and distribution costs. In return, we are offering 10% equity in our company. Consider joining our team and help us get mod filters to the communities that need it.
All right, congratulations. Next group, we've got, let's start with Cook Guide.
Hello, we're Cook Guide. We're a software team developing an app and an Alexa skill that helps people in the kitchen. We're specifically focused on helping people keep track of their recipes, schedule their recipes into meal plans, have online delivery for the ingredients that are in the recipes that they're planning on cooking, and then walking the user through the preparation of those recipes using smart home technology like Amazon Alexa and stuff like that.
So our main objective was to make cooking at home very efficient, which is inconvenient and easy, which is not what it is like right now. So when users use our product and they purchase ingredients, we tailor the order specifically so that it is tailored to the recipe and they don't order more than they need, which is a really big problem at home when that results in a lot of food being wasted. And also, we place online orders, which makes it much more convenient, so you don't have to make that trip to the store.
So I really loved your product. During COVID, I ended up doing a lot of online cooking classes, kind of digging out things I didn't even know I had in my kitchen. Can you talk a little bit about how, in addition to perhaps buying the groceries online from the larger companies, a smaller local food store may be able to participate in your program?
Yeah, so this is really important for how we want to move forward. A lot that we've been talking about so far is about Amazon, but really we want to move past that. We want to be very, very inclusive in our program. And the idea is that our product just creates an online order and sends it to a store, right? So if a store is capable of receiving online orders, which these days lots of stores do. I mean, For example, DoorDash, right? I see DoorDash people running around all the time. Online orders come in all the time. It's a huge part of the retail experience these days. And a lot of people, if they can receive an order and they can bag the groceries, they can participate in our system, right? If they're willing to ship them or just bag them and have the users, come out if they really are interested in the local shopping experience, they can come out to the store and have their stuff ready and be able to support their local business as opposed to a big store, but still experience that same convenience.
Cool, yeah, and DoorDash supports grocery delivery these days too, so holler. My question was just around the MVP. I'm curious about there's a lot of complexity in building a recipe database and doing meal planning and then getting the groceries, deduplicating the groceries, sending them to a third party. There's just a lot there. I'm just wondering, what do you think is the smallest version of this? Is the Alexa part necessary? I have one in my kitchen, so that would be cool for me, but many people I don't think do.
So the smallest version of this probably does not require the Alexa part. In fact, right now, pretty much everything that we can do on the Alexa, we can also do on the phone. And this is also very important because a lot of people do have an Alexa. In fact, 23% of all households have an Alexa, but not everyone has one. So we definitely want our product to be able to work without it, though it works best with it. The MVP of our product really is the thing working with Amazon. And then from there, we want to expand, out. We want to expand. We want to work with other stores like ShopRite and Walmart and stuff like that. And we want to work with local stores, and we want to work. We want to be, a competitor to these other kinds of websites like Instacart and stuff like that. And once we prove the concept with Amazon, which we're currently in discussion with them, one of the round one judges approached us and put us in contact. Once we prove it there, we want to move it out beyond, and then we'll scale past that MVP.
One of the things I found so compelling about your model is this idea of using what you have in your pantry and then adapting your meals for that, and sort of the meal planning piece of it. I know my family, when my kids were very young and they all of a sudden needed to eat, I guess, that we ended up moving to a menu where we had certain meals every single week, which greatly reduced our waste of groceries. So I definitely know that works. I think the thing that's compelling about your product is it's those meal kits, but it's using what you have in your, it's sort of like the grown-up version of the meal kits. I have these spices at home and this chicken, how do I put it all together? Were you thinking about it that way, or were you thinking about it kind of differently?
So we looked at the meal kits, right? So we're cognizant of our competitors, and we looked at the meal kits, and we thought the selection's just so small, and a lot of people out there are picky eaters, and a lot of people have stuff already. All of those things come together and say that the meal kits are garbage. We can do better, right? We can use the wide selection of online delivery. We can use users know what they already have, so we don't need to order more. We can leverage all of this knowledge to make a better product for the user that is closer to what they're thinking of when they want to order food.
Yeah, and
we
at the end,
unfortunately have to move on to the next team, but thank you very much. Very compelling. Hoopla.
Hi, everyone. My name's Madison, and this is Natalie. We're the representatives for Team Hoopla. So Hoopla is a fun acronym which stands for Hoop Strain Live Auditory Halt Software. That's a lot of fancy words, but basically we are a surgical aid software that exists within the realm of total hip replacement surgeries. And when a surgeon is doing this procedure, they have to insert an implant into the femur, so into your leg bone. And one of the things when they're doing this is it's impaction. They have to hit it really hard with the hammer. And this creates a sound. We use the Hoopla software to listen to this sound through a microphone and do detailed frequency analysis for specific patterns. By looking at these different patterns, we can predict when fractures may occur. So we can tell the surgeon, hey, you need to stop and change course because right now you're at risk of breaking the bone. So by providing this alert, we are able to prevent intraoperative fractures during surgery.
All right.
Well, maybe one clarifying question that I didn't get to in the Slack is, what is your certification or FDA? Do you have to go through any certifying pathway?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So right now, there's nothing currently on the market that uses frequency analysis in the way that the Hoopla would. So we'd actually have to apply for a de novo classification so that the Hoopla could be registered as its own unique novel technology for which previous devices on the market can't provide assurance that this already works. So we'd have to apply for a new classification saying that there's no predicate devices, and the Hoopla would be a class 2 device. It's not surgically implanted or anything like that. It sits on a table about 1 meter away from the surgical field, so it's not in that sterile field. So it would be a class 2 device, and yeah, we would have to go through, instead of doing a normal route with the FDA, we'd have to apply for a special classification.
I have to tell you, I'm having a little envy. When I was an undergrad and wanted to do biomedical engineering, I was told, no, focus on one of the main engineerings, like electrical. That said, this is a really exciting device. I'm curious, and maybe it's a follow-up to what you just explained. It sounds to me like you're saying it's like a total white space. Why do you think that is? What's been preventing others from using this kind of technology?
Right, I can talk about it and then, yeah. Why it's a new space? I think, honestly, when we were working with our advisor to develop this idea, we knew we were gonna be working with hoop strain, and the initial idea was actually to use a strain gauge, which is just a brass sheet that would actually be glued onto the bone. So I think a lot of it comes from the idea of having to have something actually touching the bone in order to monitor the strain on it, rather than having something that doesn't need to be implanted, something that's away from the surgical field. There is a similar device. Do you want to mention that? That's kind of similar, but not really.
So there are certain devices. There's one such example within the ENT field. So when you're doing cochlear implant surgery, there's a device called the ECOG system, which does very similar. It listens to frequencies within the ear and how the physiological changes in the ear respond to frequency. And it provides an alert for surgeons when they're implanting the cochlear implant, which allows you to hear, if people aren't aware of what that device does, that, hey, you're causing potentially hearing damage. Go back and change how you're inserting, your speed, your angle, your placement. So it is kind of a frequency exists, but that's within the ear. It's kind of obvious. So the concept of there being a correlation to the potentially physical parameters, such as hoop strain in a bone or in an orthopedic situation, and connecting that to frequency as a potential new way to monitor it is kind of just a new spin on how to look for those things.
I wanted to ask if you've had any opportunity to talk to any surgeons to get their perspective on would they like something like this as they're doing these lengthy surgeries, and what's their perspective?
Yeah, we've actually discussed with several surgeons. So we've talked a lot with Dr. Schneider. He's at Franciscan Health in Chicago. And he's an orthopedic surgeon, and one of their biggest challenges is when they're having a surgery, if they have a fracture, it's very hard to it requires a lot of additional surgical time, and you have to use additional hardware to fix. So we've gotten a lot of feedback for them on terms of what kind of things do they want out of a device like this. And one of their biggest comments was, we want this device to be small and not interfere with what I'm already doing. I'm busy, I'm doing an entire joint replacement through a tiny little hole in your leg. I don't got a lot of space. And so that's one of the things that actually inspired our idea to move away from a sensor on the bone. Because by removing ourselves from the surgical field and being a microphone that can be at a distance, we can still provide the same service, but we can avoid overcrowding where they're already at. So we've been able to take some cool advice from them.
Thank you very much. Can we move on to, and forgive me if it's Super Lu or Super LU?
Yes, it's Super LU. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're Super LU FPGA. So our project involved the hardware acceleration of a particular problem in linear algebra known as lower-upper matrix decomposition. So this operation is really common in like scientific computing. So the applications are quite large. Like if you think of simulating weather or fluid dynamics or plasma physics, they all involve this operation. And so this accelerator would be beneficial to all those fields. Additionally, it's useful for the analysis of like big data, because that also uses this operation. So if you think of like analyzing like large amounts of financial metrics or something, it's useful for that.
So many of these simulations are currently bottlenecked by this specific operation. And the reason behind that is largely because of a lot of the overhead that's inherent to CPU and GPU technologies. What we do is we use an FPGA, which can allow us to remove all of these inefficiencies. We develop a processor that is specifically designed for this type of operation, for LU decomposition. And what this allows us to do is eliminate all of the inefficiencies that we've observed in our time looking at these simulations, but it also reduces the amount of power it consumes and increases performance significantly.
Giuseppe, you've been particularly quiet, so I'm going to move to you, and then we'll go back to Garrett.
Yeah, I was going to go back to use cases. So you mentioned a couple, but if you had to prioritize them, what would you jump on first and second?
That's a really good question. I think, from a business standpoint, there's circuit simulations, which are run by a lot of large corporations that drive a lot of the tech world. From an importance perspective, I mean, you could argue that's really important, but you could also argue that weather simulations are more important than that. In terms of who we target first, that's really a matter of what we're prioritizing. As a startup, one of the things that you're really trying to do is establish a revenue stream. And so we think that targeting things like the private sector doing circuit simulations is very important from our perspective. Later, moving into to tackle some of the very large problems like very large weather simulations.
Can you help me understand the choice of selling an FPGA design versus spinning up your own server and people send data to you to run?
Yeah, so the reason that we chose not to spin up our own server is because the competition in that field is very fierce right now. Amazon has recently launched its EC2 program, which does exactly that. They offer FPGAs that you can essentially rent from them. They're called F1 instances, where you can provide a design and run your workload on that. And so what we've decided to do is, instead of offering a FPGA server service, we provide the actual design they run. So they can take this design and they can choose to either create their own server, or they could go and choose someone like Amazon, where they can use our design. They can image the processors that they rent and run those workloads remotely if they choose.
Other questions? How you doing, Rita? No questions? We can move on. There you go. You can reach for the mic.
No, I just wanted to say it's really impressive. It's a lot more technical than I remember ever being, so very amazing.
Thank you. We've had a lot of fun with it.
We'll take words of encouragement. Judith, you have any other questions or remarks?
Yeah, well, so having worked in the semiconductor industry at AT&T a number of years ago, talk a little bit about the partnership you have with Xilinx.
Yes, of course. Do you want to?
Yeah, so Xilinx supported us both in two ways. One was with like customer support if we had questions about like their FPGAs and software. And the other was they provided us with hardware so we could actually implement our design and test it and benchmark it and that kind of thing. So they've kind of been a partner throughout and kind of just supporting us and giving us the hardware that we need.
All right. The last project of the day and of this group is optical cardiovascular monitoring. And what I understand is you're the only single-person team to make it to the top 10, so congrats on that.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Elena. As said, I am the optical cardiovascular monitoring team. My device uses flow plethysmography, or PPG, to gather pulse rate and blood oxygen level data. I'm specifically aiming for it to be used on young patients because, for that in particular, current cardiovascular monitoring methods can be very frightening and often excessive just for early detection.
It will be made to be used at a regular physician's visit, so that it's not like you're going out extra to do this, because bringing a child to the doctors is already pretty hard, as I understand. So that's really the short summary, honestly.
Judges, Laura.
A couple years ago, I saw a product that was aimed at pediatric, and they made it like pink, and it had ears, and it looked like a pediatric device. I don't actually know what your device looks like, but I'm curious. Are you planning? Have you thought about like sort of how you present that to the end patient?
So in terms of where my project sort of is now, I'm kind of in the testing phase for sensors and just making sure that it's as accurate as possible and that you're getting as much data as possible in order to make medical diagnosis. As a preface, I'm not a biomed. I'm actually part of the physics department, so I had to do a lot of this research on my own, and if some of it isn't accurate, it's kind of like I'm still learning, in the process of learning all of it. I actually ran a survey that I sent to doctors, medical students, people studying medicine, and a lot of them actually did suggest that like having this sort of like being presented as very child friendly. Even just talking to some of my professors and advisors, they mentioned devices in the past that do have this sort of like very child oriented. I think that once I do have a sort of working sensor system that I'm happy with, that I think that doctors will be happy with, then adding the sort of embellishments to make it more friendly to children will be one of the first things I'm also looking at.
I would also encourage you to take a look at some of the emerging markets. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is particularly interested in making sure that healthcare and healthcare diagnostics are made available on a global basis. So think about, is there, once you get it done, a version that might be a lower cost version and something that could potentially be used with nurse practitioners if you didn't necessarily have a physician who's able to take the readings.
Thank you.
Other feedback, words of encouragement, observations from the last month, recipes you're thinking of ordering later? I'm going to call on somebody. All right, Assemblyman, what do you got? All right, Giuseppe was reaching for it. Sure. I'll take whatever you got.
Yeah, I think some of the ideas we've heard today are very big, and there's a lot to do. And I think when you're faced with a really, big system or something to tackle, it's great to keep differentiation in mind. And if you could just be really differentiated in one piece of this, or just be really amazing at one piece of the bigger picture, it could go really far. So I would just say, keep differentiation in mind. And if just one piece of it is killer, it could really go pretty far. And then the other piece is team. So I think, anything that is going to get really big is going to require a team. So, kind of create a timeline and think ahead of what you'll need and what could really help you out, in your ideas.
And can I kind of build off the team comment and say, I think one of the things that was interesting to me was that many of the teams had a diversity of different academic disciplines that came together to work on these projects, and having diversity of perspective is really going to be important as you grow and scale your businesses.
All right, if the four teams could come up here, please, for the moment of truth. Big round of applause. All right. Again, in no particular order, but not advancing. It's kind of a sad way to put it, isn't it? It's like a very negative thing. You guys want to hang out for a little bit? Okay. Number three, from group number three, not advancing, unfortunately, Hoopla. Good job, though. Joining them in not advancing, but still remaining in the top 10, be psyched, optical cardiovascular monitoring. Which leaves us with Cook Guide and Super LU FPGA. Can we get the legs? Can we get some drums? The winner from this group, Super LU FPGA. Big round of applause. Thank you very much. Are we going to check out the pitch? Yes? All right, we can see their pitch. Thank you. Congratulations.
Hi, my name is Grant Simmons.
And my name is Abdullah Haider.
And we're the developers of SuperLU FPGA, a hardware accelerator for matrix operations. Scientists and engineers across the world rely on matrix decomposition to solve complex computational problems, such as weather simulations, circuit simulations, and even to control our power grids.
Beyond simulations, matrix algebra is a critical component of analyzing big data, like financial metrics and historical weather data.
Currently, these calculations are bottlenecked by the capabilities of modern GPU architectures. What we've developed is a whole new hardware architecture specifically tailored to these matrix operations.
While current solutions rely on developing optimized software for general-purpose GPUs, our solution starts from the ground up to create a hardware design that makes these critical simulations faster while drawing less power. By leveraging the latest of field programmable gate array, or FPGA technology, we enable our customers to scale our solution to their needs and even reuse hardware they may already have.
Imagine being able to forecast a hurricane weeks before it approaches instead of days before. Our design enables the speeding up of simulations like weather forecasting in the same footprint and energy usage as current GPUs.
Additionally, our solution requires little adaptation by the customer. Our FPGA design can run alongside current solutions on GPUs and can even be run on current FPGAs the customer may already own.
By working with Xilinx, a leading FPGA design firm, we've tailored our solution to their flagship products, positioning our product to lead the way in matrix computations. In addition, our solution is backed by a wealth of experience across high-tech fields. Abdullah has conducted award-winning research in plasma simulations at Princeton Plasma Physics Laboratory. I've helped develop high-performance processors at industry leaders like AMD and Apple. Together with the researchers behind the leading GPU solution, SuperLU, we have all the ingredients necessary to change the landscape of high-performance computing.
We plan to initially market our product by leveraging our partnership with Xilinx to provide a free trial to current Xilinx customers. Following the trial, customers can retain our product through a monthly licensing fee. And additionally, our expertise will be available to customers as consultants and developers of complete business solutions.
Our initial target market consists of the Department of Energy's national laboratories, which spend nearly $1 billion every year upgrading their supercomputers. We will also market to private engineering design firms like Boeing, Ford, and SpaceX, which rely heavily on circuit and fluid simulations.
What we ask from you is an investment of $250,000 to purchase additional FPGAs and servers to more closely replicate the data centers of our customers. Our design focuses on being as scalable as possible. Your additional funding will allow us to optimize for warehouse-scale computing environments, helping us meet this vision and better meet the needs of our customers.
Spend less time waiting and more time innovating with SuperLU.
All right, congratulations, guys. And how about a round of applause for our 3 finalist teams, as well as all 10 finalists? I also want to thank the judges for spending so much time over the last several weeks contributing and giving feedback to those teams. I know how much they appreciate it, and thank you for your involvement in showing up here today to give live feedback. It's good to be back in person, even though I haven't done this in a while. I'm still remembering how. I do want to comment also on the many years that we've been doing this, the huge leap in both how impressive the projects have become and also how prepared each team is and comfortable on stage. And for those of you who stumbled a bit, every single one of us has been in this position and stumbled. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just keep moving through it. And the more practice you get doing it, the more comfortable you will be. But as a university, it's clear the improvement we've made through the years. And so, maybe we should give out some money. What do you think? That'd be good. Before we do, you want to cheer your team on? I'm assuming you're rooting for someone? All right. As a reminder, the first place team wins $10,000. The second place team wins $5,000. The third place team wins $2,500. Let's see who's going to win $2,500. Are you ready? Can I get some drums, some noise, some something? You can keep doing that. We're just chatting up here. What's that? I think we need Nariman on stage to hand out giant checks. What do you think? Yes. Dr. Varvarden, Provost Q, thank you. All right. Give me some noise again in third place. Here we go. Super LU FPGA. Congratulations. Here we go. How many Stevens people does it take to hold a check? Yeah, we'll do more. Good job. Congratulations. Stay here. Don't move. All right. The winner of the 2022 Ansary Innovation Expo, which I believe is what it's called, but that's what we're calling it right now, is, give me some noise. We need a lot more noise than that. Real-time American Sign Language transcription. In second place, congratulations to Mod Filter. You guys did a great job. Look in the back to the official photographer for a moment. And let's hear it as well for Mod Filter. Congratulations on second place, a huge accomplishment. If we could have all the teams come up holding your giant checks for one last photo, that would be great. Make your way over. And other team members, if they are here, are welcome to run on up. Can you guys go to the other end? Oh, okay, wait. Okay, that's fine right here. Sure, that's up to you. No, let them. Okay, let them. All right, congratulations, everybody. This, you want another one? Okay. I say this every year, and because I feel it every year. It's a tremendously inspiring event. You all are very incredible. I think what Nariman had shared earlier about hope for the future and how technology plays a role lives and breathes here today. So thank you very much, not just to the 3 winners, but to all 150 teams and projects that competed. Thank you very much. This officially concludes the competition. You are all invited to the Bobbio East patio for some networking. Thank you very much, and see you next year.